I will give you this teaser. I had a breakthrough of Magnum proportions. And while it sounds like a sex story, it's really a story of safety. It's a story of nervous system literacy. And it's a story of changing your generational trauma and being the first in your bloodline to ever have the ability to have healthy engagements. And it's just a beautiful thing. And honestly, we all need the ability to do this. Everybody needs the ability to rewire our nervous system. Hi, welcome to the first episode of the Fckme IRL Pod. I'm your host, Lauren Friedman, also known as Not Another Healing Asshole. I'm also known as the Trauma Translator, the Side Whisperer, and more. But today I'm really excited to tell you about a breakthrough of Magnum proportions I had, because sometimes you need a good breakdown to have a breakthrough in real life. I never would have imagined that I would be starting this podcast that I've been trying to figure out how to start for the last 3+ years. And in the midst of all of that, have literally lost my entire existence. But I found my soul, and I found ways to find my self-worth in myself, not outsourcing it to other people. And that's what we're going to talk about today, is attachment wounds and how to heal your nervous system in real life through neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity is the ability to actually change your neural pathways over time through practice. And it's a beautiful, intentional way to change your life. And I'm going to teach you how to do it in real life. But today I really want to focus on nervous system literacy for all, the art and science of connection to self, connection to others, and connection to a higher power. Because I literally changed my life in ways I never could have imagined were possible. In fact, it's been so hard for me to get to this point. This is something that's taken me years to get to. And I thought the story was one thing, was really another. And I was trying to bifurcate my stories and compartmentalize. And that's literally the opposite of healing. Healing is literally integrating all the things that we feel that are shameful and parts of ourselves that we want to hide and compartmentalize and forget that exist. And I was trying to do that with my business. And when you do that, how you do anything is how you do everything. Nervous system literacy is real. And your nervous system doesn't change when you're at work or when you're trying to run a business or when you're engaged with your family or your friends or romantically. It's the same nervous system. So unless you know how to change it, then you won't be able to change your reality. But if you do, you could change your entire existence. But last week I did have a breakthrough of Magnum proportions, and I never imagined that I would be able to get to this point. And I also didn't imagine that ordering condoms on Uber Eats, Magnum specifically, would make me remember my power and my why. If you've ever struggled with relationships, whether it's with yourself, with family members, with romantic partners, with professional people, or with just making friends, this episode is for you. If you've ever ghosted anybody or been ghosted, if you can't have hard conversations, or you feel like you're always chasing people and they never reciprocate, and you just can't find anyone to date, this episode is for you, because you could change your life. And that is literally why I'm here. That's why I started the Fckme IRL brand, the podcast, the speaking engagements, the consulting, merch with a perp that's being updated. All the things that I'm doing have to do with your life in real life, because I have a crazy story. My story is literally, I always say, my truth is crazier than any tale I could ever tell. And I literally can't make it up, but there's something in there for everyone, and everyone sees themselves in it. And the thing is that we all have attachment wounds. Our nervous systems have been conditioned towards certain environments. And until we show it something new, we keep repeating the same cycles of dysfunction over and over and over again. We could even intellectually understand, hey, this is what we're supposed to be doing, but not integrate it. And we still keep doing it over and over and over. And once in a while, you get shown the light in the strangest of places if you look at it right. And last week, I had a breakthrough of Magnum proportions, and I've been trying to figure out a way to share this story broadly since then, because I feel like it can change lives, and I know it can. I was feeling super, super hopeless. I was asking the universe, I was like, show me how good it gets. I was trying to condition my brain and my nervous system to look for the good. That's how you could change your life. And those are things that we could talk about in future episodes. We're going to talk about the power of neuroplasticity. We're going to define terms. This is kind of like Call Her Daddy meets The Daily Show, meets PBS, meets The Sound of Music, meets the dirtiest, raunchiest comedian you're ever going to meet. And I stopped drinking a few years ago, and I realized my issue was sex and love. And that is an attachment wound. And when you're able to heal those attachment wounds, integrate the parts of yourself that you once felt shame, it changes your whole life. And we don't have to talk about changing your entire existence, right? I've literally rebuilt my nervous system from the ground up. But I also had a moment last week that I was like, oh, I've rewired my nervous system. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and there's nothing that has ruined my mental health more than my relationships. Like truly, it's like my attachment wound destroyed my life. I spent the last 20 years in a relationship that I should have never been in, that has put me in a significant amount of danger. And I could have left many times, but I didn't, because I thought it was safer to stay than to leave. And I've lost my whole family. I've lost my job 6 times after M&A and divestiture. I've also lost and gained over 100 pounds multiple times from trauma living in my body. And of all the things I've accomplished, and we'll go into all those things, I also did my own divorce while being like threatened legally. Like I have a lot of things that I have overcome, but of all the things I've overcome and all the things I'm proud of, this is the crux of how I could change my life and how you could change yours too. Because when I addressed my attachment wound, the whole world changed. I saw how it was impacting every part of my life, because once you see it, you can't unsee it. I always say that about trauma. Trauma is just stress that overwhelms your ability to cope and or contradicts your worldview. And triggers, which are just stimuli, are responses to that, right? So our nervous system responds, and when we don't know how to change our nervous system, right, get out of a state of distress or activation or dysregulation, which looks like fight, flight, fawn, or freeze, we get stuck in these same patterns of survival. But when we can have awareness and connection and figure it out, it changes everything. And that's what I'm going to share with you, because I was in therapy since I was 5. Both my parents were therapists. And the reason I was in therapy since I was 5 was after my dad's first suicide attempt, which is one of the reasons why I'm also known as the suicide whisperer. Last week, I really had been also struggling to connect with my spirit guides. Like Lily, mindfulbeauty.life, has been really incredible in helping me rebuild my power, rebuild my nervous system capacity, like really be able to go inward and figure out why I'm here. And the thing is we all need that. We all need that extra connection to self, to a higher power. When I started this journey, I had no idea I was going to stop drinking. All I wanted to do was lose weight and feel better. And as it turns out, it's really been a journey of enlightenment. So I ended up deciding that I was going to speak my truth last week. I wasn't going to get sick. When you're silenced, it lives in your body. And it was actually making me sick again. I had 2 days of migraines, which I haven't had in months. I was able to reverse literally chronic pain that I've had since I was a child. In real life, I was having hip pain, my jaw hurt. And I was like, I'm not going to get sick again. I'm going to start speaking my truth. And when I made that decision, everything changed. And I wasn't going to live in shame. And I wasn't going to die alone in silence and shame like my father. I was going to remember my power. And I was still trying to figure out, why was I here? Sometimes you need a breakdown to have a breakthrough. When my therapist said last week, I'm praying for a breakthrough for you, I didn't think that was going to come in the form of a beautiful man, but it always does. And in this instance, I met a man in a place that when I was getting off the ferry, which is very normal for me, I don't have trouble meeting people. And I got divorced in September of 2025. I haven't made out with one person since May of 2025. And the 2 people that I made out with were regrets afterwards. They were just like, I was like, I felt so grossed out. And healing is about revisiting the same places over and over with new eyes and no ego. And this story is literally that. So I was walking off the ferry, and Lily from mindfulbeauty.life has been really urging me to go sit at a bar. And I was like, why would I sit at a bar? I stopped drinking. Like literally sitting at a bar is how I used to get in trouble. And I could sit at a bar now and not drink. Like I don't even miss drinking. So when I stopped drinking, I realized my issue was sex and love, because I still made really bad decisions. And I got myself into a really, really, really toxic situation that destroyed my mental health. And that is when I realized that I had a sex and love addiction. And I went to a SLAW meeting, Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous. And the first thing they said was, we're not like the other 12-step programs. You know, we don't like to talk about this publicly. And I was like, that adds like another layer of shame that I already felt the most amount of shame about. I destroyed my life in so many ways. I never thought that I would get to this point. I never thought that I would stop drinking, let alone being celibate by choice for 2.5 years almost, and get to a point where I could have a healthy engagement without feeling shame or without regretting it. But I did. I just focused on getting myself out of my marriage with integrity, which is what the goal was from the celibacy from the beginning, right? My favorite part, though, about being celibate for so long was that I loved using it as an excuse. Oh yeah, I'm celibate. Oh yeah, I'm married. That was the only thing that was better than celibate. But not even that. That sometimes the married thing actually got the wrong attention. But the celibate thing would look me up and down. They're like, no, you're not. And I was like, I didn't dress like this. I'm not to F you. I dress like this for me, bro. Those were the funniest and most also ridiculous engagements when I said I was celibate. But like, yeah, I definitely did not consider, I didn't even think I would last this long. There were days in like 2024 and 2025 that I was like, I need sex, you know? And the reality is that I was able to retrain my nervous system to choose different, to choose safe situations, to choose something I didn't have to chase, something I didn't even think twice about, something I took note of. I took data points and I was like, okay, interesting. And then I moved on with my life because I wasn't obsessed with it. And that's when it happened, you know, the surrender of it all. Like, I'm not a cheater. My ex-husband actually knew that. My ex-husband was like, you're not a cheater. He knew I was pushed over the edge of sanity. And I was. And everyone around me was like, what's wrong with you? Like, you obviously love each other. Like, how could you do all these crazy things and still go home and try to have whatever relationship? And I didn't realize it was because I had unprocessed complex trauma. In fact, I was in therapy, and we'll talk about bad therapists, good therapists in future episodes, but I've actually had some bad therapists because therapists are human, right? And when you're not trauma informed and you don't understand somatics, traditional psychotherapy really doesn't work. You need to have a trauma informed approach. So that's why we're here today. I found myself getting off the ferry, talking to this man, and Lily had been in my ear. She's like, go sit at a bar. And I was like, I can meet people anywhere. I don't really want to go sit at a bar. And like, it's not fun. It sounds like a bad idea. So she was like, just go do it one day. So I was like, you know what? I don't want to go home. I started to feel better after the migraine. I was wearing a cute outfit and I was at a different stop than I normally go to. And I was like, and there's like a bar right there that, as I mentioned, I've been to before. And I try not to go there because I don't really particularly care for that place for a variety of reasons outside the scope of dating. But I always end up there because it's not so far. And I was trying to figure out how I was going to get home. Normally I would walk, but like I really didn't feel like it. I was trying to also manage capacity, right? And not have to overexert my body in ways that I didn't need to. Understanding capacity, rebuilding your nervous system are all interrelated. And we'll go through all of those things in future episodes. When I thought about taking an Uber, but again, like I mentioned, I'm in financial disarray and I really need to be prudent with my finances and fiscally responsible in ways that I never have been. Again, like I said, this has been a journey of enlightenment. But I was walking off the ferry and this guy and I started to chat, kind of over my water bottle, but just in general. And we ended up going to the bar across the street. And as it turns out, he was here for the past 3 weeks from Belgium, but this was his last night. And a former iteration of myself would have been like, oh, let's make his last night crazy. And like said, oh, let's do, like, I would have egged us on, right? But this time we just decided to go across the street. And I happened to mention that I stopped drinking, you know, as we were talking, and I saw like a flash of recognition on his face. So we sit down at a table, the bar was crowded, and I order a club soda and he's like, I'll have that too. As it turns out, he had been on a 6-month bet with his friends to be sober. So he also wasn't drinking, which was really cool. I had a bunch of protein bars with me. I had Built, I had Equip, I had a Slate drink with me, which I often have in front of the camera, but I don't today, on the hopes that my stomach would feel better and I would be able to eat, but I hadn't eaten all day. He looked at them and he's like, oh, 20 grams of protein. So I like a man who knows his way around a protein bar, a protein drink. We bonded over like so many different things. So it was really cool. It was a reminder that you could connect with someone, even in a friendly way, right? So the old me would have been like, how fast can we but the new me was just like, I'm happy to feel connection with somebody because I was beginning to lose hope. Like over the last year that I've been single, my ex-husband moved out in April of 2025. And as I mentioned, I've been celibate since January of 2024 after that really terrible, I had the most toxic like engagement with this man. That was the aha moment, the divine realization that allowed my body to lose weight for the first time in February of 2023 after working with my doctor for 13 months. We'll go into all those stories another time, but that same engagement eventually turned really toxic and I ended up leading me to sex and love addicts meetings. And that's when I realized that I didn't really like their platform because it added another level of shame to what I already felt was the most amount of shame. Like sex and love addiction is something that nobody talks about. And I'm going to talk about it because attachment wounds are literally the underlying way that our unconscious is driving every single decision in our lives. And until we have the ability to find safety and wholeness in ourselves, we keep repeating those same cycles of dysfunction over and over and over across all facets of our lives, whether it's personal, relationships, friendships, family, professional, romantic, or with ourselves. So the reason I'm here today is to share all of that with you because I am the most excited about this story because I never thought that I would be able to get to this point. This is something I've never dreamed of. I'm literally healing generations of epigenetic trauma that lives in our genes and becomes pronounced through environmental factors. My grandmother had some of these issues. My mom had different issues, right? My mom also knew this was part of my issue. She's been guiding me in this. My dad has been guiding me in this. They speak to me through men. So, of course, it was a beautiful man that allowed me to go from a breakdown to a breakthrough or a me to an UNFCKME IRL. And so we ended up going to this restaurant bar. We chatted about, he was also in tech and health. It was awesome. It was really cool. And I mentioned that I wasn't sure how I was going to get back to my apartment. Now, again, I wasn't asking for any ride. I was just saying how I wasn't even supposed to be here. I wasn't even supposed to be on this ferry. I was actually trying not to be on this ferry, believe it or not. But wherever you go, there you are, as my dad always quoted the old Chinese proverb. He was a very wise man, and he's been guiding me on this journey. As I mentioned, that's why I'm called the suicide whisperer, amongst other things. And I'm not another healing asshole because I'm actually living this. This is how I changed my life in real life. And I'm going to help you change yours too. And it starts with small steps. It's not going to change overnight. You can't rewire your nervous system in 3 months. It's years. This has taken me 3+ years to get to this point, but I finally got there. And he ended up driving me back to my apartment, and he came upstairs, and I wasn't sure if it was going to go anywhere. I felt like there was a little tension, but I have weird engagements with a lot of people all the time, and I don't feel normally anything ever. So it was also really annoying to me that I hadn't felt anything. And I was like, what is wrong with me? I don't even want to make out with one person. And that I was like, come on, what's going on? So I was grateful that I just had a little bit of attraction with this person. Even if it didn't go anywhere, it just allowed me to realize I was alive again. And okay, I could find a person attractive enough to hang out with, to have upstairs. And because I also hadn't invited anyone back in a year, because I was like, I don't want anyone in my space. I don't want to feel compelled to do things. I want to feel safety in my body, in my mind, in my soul. And I'm really grateful for how this all went down because, as it turns out, he came upstairs. I had laundry everywhere, not everywhere, but hanging in the bathroom, which I totally forgot about. And it was a series of follies. It was very funny. And we ended up hanging out on my sofa. And at one point I thought he was going to kiss me, and then he didn't. So I was like, okay. And so he had a flight back the next day, literally. And he had mentioned earlier in the night that he had a lot of things that he had to do because he had been here for 3 weeks and this was his last night. And when I told my therapist this, she was like, I was like, no, it's not the start of a porn. It sounds it, but it's not. And I wanted him to be able to make his plane. I actually care for people. And so I was like, okay, I'm not going to derail this man's night. He could do whatever he wants. So, and I wasn't sure if there was something, if there wasn't, but I didn't really care that much. It wasn't even at the forefront of my brain. I was just trying to have an authentic engagement with someone, which is truly the power of neuroplasticity, the ability to build new neural pathways through intentional practice over time. This is how you change your life. This is why I'm obsessed with nervous system literacy for all, the art and science of connection to self, connection to others, and connection to a higher power, because it changes your whole life. And he ended up leaving. Now, again, this is late, right? This has been going on for a long time. And as he was leaving, he gave me a hug, and the hug went on for a little beat too long. And there was some caressing, fine. It was still very chill. And then he gave me a kiss on the cheek on the way out. And I was like, okay, whatever. He's European. It is what it is. So I let him go on his merry way. I paused when I got into my doorway. I was like, that was weird. And my only thought was, I was like, it's weird that it didn't go anywhere, but also whatever. My only thought was I hope that minimally I could find another person that I'm attracted to that doesn't take a year, right? Minimally. But it wasn't about him. It wasn't he's the last person on earth. It just was a reminder that I was alive and that I existed. So I went about my night. I put my hair into braids. I drank my water. I minded my business. I had my slate protein because I finally felt like I could eat something at 11 something at night. Cool. That's normal, right? And then I got a message from him, and I had told him, I was like, hey, let me know when you get back to your hotel, because he had to drive 30 minutes away. That's where he was staying for work. And the thing about when I ask people to do that, it's not because I want to be in a relationship with you or I deeply care. It's that my nervous system is programmed for being responsible for other people when they engage with me. And we could talk about that at a later date, because it was something I shared with my therapist this week. And she's like, well, it's because I'm like, nope. I was like, it's because of this. And that's the thing. So when I do that, I deeply care, but it's also I don't want to be responsible for people getting hurt, right? So he did message me when he got back, but he didn't start with "I'm back." He was like, "Should we have?" And he referenced an inside joke between us. And I was like, maybe. I was like, but I thought you had to leave. And he was like, no, I thought you had to go to sleep. Your alarms were going off. And I was like, no, those alarms were to remind me to go to bed before like 4 a.m. truly. And it starts at like 11:30. And I was like, no, I thought you had to like go back and pack. And he's like, how about tomorrow at noon? And my first thought was, I really don't love days. I've done that before. It's made me feel like I don't mind days if it's like a fun rendezvous and it's someone that you're with, right? That's like kinky and fun, but not when it's like the first time. But again, this wasn't the same type of engagement, right? Like we didn't meet like on an app, which are the apps don't have any serious people, which is why I don't go on them. And I used to meet people all the time because I used to be out everywhere. And now that I've been like isolated, honestly, losing my job 3 years ago and trying to bootstrap a startup as a solopreneur, losing your whole family, losing your friends, losing everything. I do go out a lot and obviously I meet people everywhere, but I haven't felt anything, right? And it's a numbers game. It's like, how many people can you meet? Can you feel something with? And, is that person safe? It's not just do you feel something, because often those feelings are really attachment wounds, as I've also learned, because my tastes have changed even over the past year. It's really beautiful to see how far you could come if you really try, pun intended. No, but for real, if you practice and showing up to universe as what you're asking for and really practice finding safety in your mind, body, it becomes habitual. It becomes something your nervous system just chooses. And this is what happened. This is something I didn't even have to think about. I never forced it. I literally just flowed. I didn't chase this at all. This person came after me time and time again, but not coming after me, but he communicated with me. I didn't text him once. He messaged me. He messaged me again and again. I didn't follow up once. And he had great communication before, during, and after. And he didn't require that. He was leaving the country the next day. This man did not have to ever speak to me again, but he did. He closed the loop so kindly, and it was the healthiest engagement in my life. And so anyway, the end of the story is, so he's like, I'm going to come back right now. And in the past, that would make me feel really dirty too, right? And this actually made me feel not dirty. It made me feel wanted. And I didn't even think that much about it because I just was concerned about putting away my laundry again because I didn't want my laundry sitting out. I don't know why. I have issues. And I didn't even think too much about it. And I was also concerned about like what I was going to wear. Was I going to wear like a piece of lingerie that I have and like something cute, or was I going to just wear what I was wearing? My brain always goes to, what am I going to wear? So he ended up coming back and we ended up becoming intimate, and it was literally the most healthy experience of my life. There was a point where we were making out and I was like, do you have any condoms? I realized I didn't even think about condoms. I wasn't even thinking about sex. That was the crazy part. I wasn't thinking about sex. It was the first time in my life that my brain wasn't revolving around sex, when I could have sex, how I can have sex, in what outfits, you know what I mean? All I was thinking about was just meeting this man in my authentic safetyness, right? And making sure that my environment was creating a condition of safety for me and for him, but also that I felt safe. I wasn't focused on the sex part, so I didn't even think about the condoms. One of the things I liked the best too, he asked about STDs, and I was like, thank you. That's amazing. And I appreciate clean, mutually respectful communication. So as it turns out, he didn't have a condom either. And I was like, okay, let's just we'll see what we end up doing. So we ended up going to bed and we needed condoms. So I remembered, because I haven't ever done this. Like, again, like I said, I made really poor decisions. I would do if you want to talk about girl math, let's talk about sex and love addiction math. Dysregulated girl math is, if my period came on X day, how many morning after pills do I have to pop like M&M's so I don't get pregnant? And when I thought about that further, I was like, it's pretty questionable behavior when you could logic your way into popping morning after pills like M&M's, but you don't take medicine for pain when you have migraines. And because I grew up with medicine alternatives, and I also thought I wanted to feel the pain to feel how severe it was. And also I thought I had to be in pain. And these are things I had to work through in therapy and working with my doctor. But now that I really can't take a morning after pill, it'll disrupt, it'll actually exacerbate all the other hormone issues. And I don't have a choice. And safe sex is so sexy. I never thought I would say that. I feel like a Dare commercial. When was my last period? When can I used to literally, I used to do this math in my head in bed and still end on, let's just raw dog it. Because I was the worst, literally the worst, because I made the worst decisions that were based in logic. They just were based in faulty logic. They were based in logic of hate myself and fucking others because I hated myself. And I used to think I was doing it to derive pleasure, but I actually was doing it because I hated myself. And when I started to love myself, that's when I really became whole in myself, in my safety. And I used discernment, and I was able to see through with clarity and make better decisions because my nervous system now is attracted to better decisions. The decisions I used to make, my nervous system doesn't want to do that anymore, which is a beautiful thing. So we ended up ordering condoms on Uber Eats, and I was grateful that I remembered that you could do that. You can't do that in Europe. Like, they have Uber Eats, but it's not the same thing. Like, I've used it in Europe and like, it's not the same. But it's the one thing about America is we may be going to hell in a handbasket, but at least we're enjoying the ride. And it's true. And you can get condoms on Uber Eats. It might be the most important thing you've ever ordered on Uber Eats, honestly. And there was one point when we were in bed, we were like fooling around, and he used love a few times, not like I love you, but like I love whatever. And that used to get me out of my head. That used to bring me out of my body, but I stayed in my body. I stayed in the moment. It wasn't even a thought. Those things that used to be stimuli, triggers, right? Stimuli, triggers or stimuli that disrupt your nervous system, that takes you out of your body and into your head, don't trigger me anymore. They're not the same stimuli. They don't have the same charge to them. That's neuroplasticity in real life, is when you remove the charge from the stimuli that used to disrupt your nervous system, when you're able to reprocess it. And that's what you do when you build new neural pathways. That's why EMDR, I don't know what the actual acronym is. It's on the Dysfunction Junction Dictionary on meirl.com. But I use tappers, which are bilateral stimulation. Walking is bilateral stimulation. When you use both sides of your brain, bilateral stimulation. And that is how you get your body to a parasympathetic state, which is a state of rest and digest. And that's actually how you can activate those new neural pathways, because you can't do it in a state of dysregulation. Nothing good happens in dysregulation. Only the same cycles of dysfunction, because your nervous system is only focused on safety. It loses all ability to have any other brain processing other than safety, which is one of the reasons why it's a miracle that I'm here today, because I really was living in lifelong undiagnosed survival mode, and it destroyed my life. I'm literally a walking picture of what unprocessed complex trauma does to your life and your body and your finances. But I'm also a picture of what happens when you find healing and you're able to actually rewire your nervous system for success and rebuild capacity from the nervous system lens, and like truly change your whole life through the art and science of connection. So at one point after we'd ordered the condom, so the love thing happened, and I was in the moment. I only realized these things afterwards, right? Like, I didn't realize it in the moment, but I was like, holy shit, we were in bed. And again, like, he's still a guy, right? He was the most respectful, healthiest engagement I've ever had. But there was a point where he was like, and I was like, tip, just to see how it feels. And he looked at me and I was like, sorry, I'm still me. I'm still going to make jokes. I'm still going to heckle you in bed. But no, we didn't trust the tip, because I didn't want to just see how it feels, because I really wanted to choose safety. And also, like, when you don't feel safe in bed and you can't get your body to a state of safety, you can't orgasm, right? You can't have the big O. So that's another thing, is like, that's another reason why women struggle to orgasm. And it's because we can't get to a level of safety, and there's all these conditions that affect it. But in this instance, he was amazing. He literally, like, I felt like this was better than losing my virginity, honestly. I never even knew I wanted a Magnum man. Like, I was like, okay. And it's very funny because the three men in the last 3 years that I've engaged with, 2 of them had been European. The first one and the last one, which is why I know my mom is behind it, because she was first generation German and she had identified with Europeans, and she loved men with beautiful hair, and these men had beautiful hair. The one in the middle was American, and that was the one that turned me off to men and made me realize that I don't want to have these engagements anymore. So say what you will about men or American men, but maybe I just don't like American men. I'm just kidding. It's on a case-by-case basis. You can't make a broad generalization about a population, right? Like, you can make jokes about it, but it's really not true. So we ended up having safe sex. It was beautiful. It was intimate. And I'm just so grateful I was able to experience this, because it was the first time in my life that I've ever been able to have intimacy without intensity. And it was really only afterwards that he left that I was like, holy shit, this was a whole different dynamic than I've ever had in my life. Like, I didn't even care that he left. Like, that had nothing to do with me. Like, do whatever you want. I also said from the beginning, like, you can or you can't, like, you don't have to stay. You know, like, he had a lot of things to do. He was trying to leave the country the next day. And like, irrespective of that, it wasn't a requirement for me any longer. Something that probably would have definitely like hurt me in the past. Like, oh, you left, or I wanted that cuddle. And he was like, I'm not gonna be able to sleep. And I definitely couldn't sleep. I really appreciated the fact too, when he was engaging with me, he's like, I also didn't want to break your celibacy because I had mentioned it. And in that moment when I mentioned it to him, I was like, oh, I wish I didn't mention that to him. But I was like, yeah, like I'm open to breaking it. I just haven't met anybody that I want to do that with yet, But it didn't matter because he was very communicative, and he was like very like, hey, I'm trying to respect your boundaries. And I felt like he considered me more than any person that I've ever engaged with in my life that I wasn't paying or who wasn't paying me. Like truly, like he had more consideration for me. So this was truly a moment of like, aha, holy shit. I was able to have a healthy engagement. I could have true, beautiful intimacy without the intensity. I didn't feel obsession over this. The power didn't come from the sex, from being able to control anything, from any power over anybody else. It came from what the sex didn't have power over me anymore. And the crazy thing is I used to have like flashbacks and images of everything the night before. And I'm not just talking about sex. I'm talking about intimacy, any type of thing that you're doing, right? My brain was in a hypervigilant state. So it was always capturing everything around me. And it would literally like seep into my thoughts when I was disassociating because I was always trying to escape myself. And now that's not what happened. I was present in the moment. My brain wasn't capturing those images. Obviously, there are things I remember and I recall, but only like in bits and pieces. And it wasn't like happening obsessively. Like this is the first time in my life that I felt a healthy level of engagement with sex. And when we don't feel safe, we outsource safety to others. We self-abandon through addictions, and that looks different for everybody. And I realized I used to regulate through sex. I have so many stories that I've known forever that this was my problem. People who really understand addiction saw this as my problem. Like one of my friends years ago was like, would you want oak or snow? And I was like, no, I'm good. Like, I don't really like that. And she's like, oh yeah, I forgot. Segs is your thing. And I was like, yeah, but in this moment, I didn't get it. And I realized that I used to regulate through sex. Now I was able to remember my power. And it wasn't from, being powerful over somebody else, but it's from the lack of power that sex had over me. And that made me so happy. It's literally what I waited for my whole life. I'm so grateful to have a healthy engagement on this planet in this lifetime. That's all I've ever wanted. It's literally like George Michael's, like, all I wanted, something special, someone sacred in your eyes. I listen to that song a lot. And that also has impacted my journey today. We're going to talk about all the things that impact our nervous system, what our nervous systems are attracted to, and how to rewire them in real life on this podcast. So I hope you'll join us. And Gabor Mate has a body of work around this. He specifically talks about addiction in Don't Ask Why the Addiction, Ask Why the Pain. And we talk about hungry ghosts. Like we're always trying to fill that void in our body, that void that we don't know how to fill. So whether it's eating or drinking or drugs or work or always staying busy or always traveling or always trying to like make more money, whatever that looks like, we're always self-abandoning in different ways. I said this to my therapist. It was the first time I ever felt full. It was like actually truly when I finally had that divine realization, that aha moment from the beautiful man in February of 23, and the medicine started working and I've gotten to my body for the first time because I realized I was trying to protect myself. This was the first time that I felt full from sex. I wasn't addicted to it. Of course I want it. I crave intimacy. I crave connection, but in a healthy way, not in a way that's going to destroy my mind, body, soul. And like, let me tell you, if this had happened 6 months ago, a year ago, 3 years ago, especially 3 years ago, the things I did 3 years ago were not sane. Like I deeply regret how I behaved 3 years ago, honestly. And that's what precipitated this healing journey, this journey of enlightenment, and why I'm sharing this with you today, because it came full circle. I was able to break epigenetic trauma that lives in our genes and becomes pronounced through environmental factors at a nervous system level. And I was able to choose differently. Literally, I showed my nervous system safety so long and something different that it became habitual. I didn't even have to think about it. I didn't force it. It just flowed. I didn't chase. I attracted. I was ready to receive and to be received. It was the most beautiful, significant evening of my life. And you can have a really meaningful engagement and still not have to make it more than that. You can have detachment, you can have healthy boundaries. And I just feel so grateful for being able to experience also a safe man, a man that was able to communicate, a man that was able to show that he cared about my needs, that he cared about anything. And I'm not just talking about in bed, like he was able to communicate with me before, during, after. And I didn't even expect it after. I didn't expect it even when he left the first time. Like I wasn't living in an expectation. I wasn't trying to control anything. All I wanted to do was live my life and find safety in my body and my life. So I was like, okay, cool. It's not going to happen tonight. It'll happen another night. And, when he left, great. I had this beautiful, wonderful moment. And it was really when I saw this laying on my counter, this Magnum condoms from Uber Eats, that I was like, you changed, girl. I'm so proud of you. This is what neuroplasticity is in real life. But those condoms, just choosing to get condoms sounds like the bare minimum that a person should make in life. Truly. It sounds like, oh yeah, congratulations. You decided to protect yourself. Don't be Don't be an asshole. Why would you not want to do that? Why would you do that? But those were things I did when I hate myself and used to use men as ways to regulate and ways to self-abandon and ways to not address what was going on in my life because I didn't have any other alternatives. But when you have nervous system literacy, the whole world is your oyster and you could change your life in real life. So unfuck me together. Unfuck me as a country. So I hope you'll join us for another episode of the Unfuck Me in Real Life pod. We're going to have many more stories, many more ways to explain this, many more interesting things to share. We're going to have experts. We're going to have subject matter experts. We're going to have innovators. We're going to have alchemists. We're going to have all types of people to show you how to your life in real life. Because if I could do it, anyone can. Don't be a Richard. And don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and comment. Also, if you're so inclined, please throw a tip in the link above. We might have episodes that are dropping weekly, multi-weekly. You never know. We're still getting into a groove, into a cadence, and into a flow. So stay tuned. It's only just begun. And we're going to be getting some new merch with a purpose, healing-centered anxiety relief tools and products with a portion of the proceeds to fund the nonprofit that I will be starting, Complex Trauma Nonprofit. We're going to get that up and running again. It's all live on the UNFCKMEIRL.com website. And all the links are in here. And I'm just really grateful that you're here. And I hope you find something valuable here because we all need a good me to have a good me. And I think the story from last week just proved it. Prove yourself proud. Together we rise. I'll ride the wave where it takes me. That's what my necklace is. Together we rise. See you next show. Don't be a Richard.